All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael Burford. I am a business enthusiast with the goal to lead and inspire like-minded individuals. Today I'm answering a few questions from Facebook. And our first question is from Tom Hansen. How to be awesome like Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan, and the legendary Michael Burford. Thanks very much, Tom Hansen. That is a amazing compliment. Obviously, it is a matter of opinion. So Michael Jackson obviously is the pop hero, the king of pop. He is an amazing musician, one of my all-time favorites. And one thing that I see in Michael Jackson, and obviously this is just a personal point of view, is that he is a hard-working individual. He was a hard-working individual, sadly enough. Michael Jackson is a dedicated person who would always put his full mind, heart, and soul into everything he did. And that is something that makes an awesome individual. He was renowned for working late nights, having very few hours sleep. His attention to detail was absolutely dedicated. I mean, he would work late nights, according to some of the articles I've read, working to perfect one tiny line, one tiny change in one of his songs, and that is what makes his music and his work and his art absolutely respected among all people that would that listen to his music. He also had a strong vision for the future. Michael Jackson knew where he was going, knew what he wanted to achieve, and would focus on that, and that's what drove him. He's the king he was the king for a reason. Absolutely amazing. Michael Jordan as well, very similar, but at the same time, Michael Jordan brought a lot of attention to his failures. Letting people know that he was human. Michael Jordan has a famous quote based on his failures, which says, I've missed over 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the winning shot and missed. I failed over and over again in my life, and that is why he succeeds. Now, learning from your failures is a huge part of personal development. Making sure that you can always get up. Every time you get knocked down, make sure you get up again. Because if you stay down, you're out. And that's the thing when it comes to striving to succeed and striving to be unique among everybody else. Michael Jordan was always able to pick himself up and carry on. He knew what, and he used those failures to fuel his desire to be successful and his desire to be the best in his game, which is obviously basketball. And he was the one. He has inspired a lot of today's top players, and not just basketball, but in many different sports and fields. And that is all from learning from your failures and learning to accept your failures and making sure that you continue to get up every time you get knocked down. Me, myself personally, I've had a lot of failures myself. I've had a number of different businesses which I tried to start up. Not all of them worked. So I had a lot of things which I've invested myself and my money into. And learned from those things that you got to calculate your return on your investment, whether it be time, financial, and either or your mental investment into things as well. Another thing you got to do is focus on the dedication aspect of it. So making sure that you're not relying on your motivation, but relying on your discipline. If you put measures to discipline yourself in place, then it's going to enable you to make sure that you're dedicated and focused on your overall goal. Making sure that you are working hard, you're committing to what you're doing, you're dedicated to what you're doing, and at the same time also having your eyes open for new opportunities. I also like experimenting, so measuring your progress, setting your goals, journaling is another good thing I do. I've got my journal here where I write all my notes down, and that helps me to keep track of where I've come from and where I'm going. It helps me to see what works and what doesn't. And that also applies to your diets. It also applies to business and your business activities. Helps you to keep track of your goals, your overall goals. Something else that also works is thinking outside the box. So taking a look at what you're doing and thinking, well, if I was going to do the opposite, how would that work? And then once again, you put that into place, and then you measure it and see how you go. Using journaling and also tracking your KPIs and whatever else it might be, depending on what you're working on. Another thing that I find that helps is having faith in yourself. It's some people would say, fake it till you make it. It's a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. Obviously, you don't want to take that too far, but believing in yourself and having confidence in yourself, knowing that that if you put your mind to something, you can achieve whatever you set out to accomplish. Something else I find really helps me in getting going is starting a day right. So my routine, I wake up 2 hours before I got to leave for the day, and I do my journaling, as I said. So I write down all my goals for the day, what I want to achieve. I measure my past performance the day before and how things are going. I write down all my thoughts because I've got a very busy mind. So I find that if I put my thoughts down on the paper, that helps me to get rid of them and focus on what I have to focus on. Another one is my Bible study. I read a chapter of the Bible a day. And then I also have my personal development book. So at the moment it is Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss. And Tim Ferriss is my business hero, and he's got a podcast which I listen to when I drive in the car, which is a lot. So I listen to a podcast almost every day. And then the book comprises of his notes from each one of his podcasts over the past 200 podcasts, and so that helps me to apply a lot of his strategies and a lot of other people's strategies into my life as well. Once again, I measure those and see how it works for me. Not everything works, but it's led me down a lot of different directions. And I also do a devotional each morning. Sometimes that can be either a relationship one or a spiritual one. And so that's just reading a chapter of a book that can help me either in my relationships, both my marriage and also personal relationships as well as a spiritual devotional book. Following that, I try and do 10 minutes of meditation. This gives me a lot of calm and a lot of clarity with my thinking. I find that meditating also helps you to practice focus. So if I can meditate for a fixed 10 minutes, that also helps me my day-to-day work. If I'm focusing on a computer screen, for example, to actually be able to zone in for a fixed 10 to 20 minutes without getting distracted. And that helps me to get things done a lot easier due to the mental work and the mental discipline involved in meditation. Another thing that it helps me with is my patience, and that's one thing that I really lack personally. And so I find that if I can keep on doing this meditation, then it's going to be able to help me to practice being calm and practice having a lot more patience, which is, as I said, one thing that I really lack in. The final little tool that I find that helps me each day is having a cold shower for about 30 seconds. That helps get the blood flowing through your body, and I find gives you a lot more energy as well. The next question is from David. Next question from David Jeffress is: I'd like you to talk about the most important and pivotal moment of your life and why it was so. So my life coach helped point this out to me when he gave me the task of writing out my life story. And so when I was 5 years old, we moved to Israel. I lived there for 5 years in Jerusalem. And so I went straight into a Hebrew-speaking school. And because I was a foreigner, I used to come home from school every day crying, mainly because I got bullied or I didn't have a fun experience at school at all. And long story short, one day, after coming home being beaten up by a whole bunch of the local kids, my dad sits me down and tells me, he goes, "Look, if somebody hits you, hit them back." And it's crazy as that may sound, it made me stand up for myself a lot more and gave me self-confidence. It helped, as my life coach explained, it turned me into a warrior, which reflects over a number of different parts of my life, both spiritual, mental, and physical. And that self-confidence has really helped me to believe in myself and to become more dedicated to things that I believe in. And yeah, I find that part there is real sort of life changer, game changer aspects, especially mentally. Now, let me clarify, what my dad was saying was not go out there and beat the living daylights out of anybody. He was saying stand up for yourself, believe in yourself, stand your ground, and don't take that crap from nobody. It's, I was coming home from school being beaten up by 5 or 6 kids. I've got stitches in my head from being stoned by the Israelis. And when I first got there, coming from a Christian school, I wouldn't hit back. I just cower in the corner and get the living daylights beaten out of me. What he was saying was, to stand up and don't take that nonsense from anybody. Have confidence and stand your ground. Next question we have here is from David Jeffress. I'd like you to talk about your bucket list and who were your influences growing up. So on my bucket list, I've got a number of different sections to that. So I've got travel, business, family, and contribution. So I've got a lot of travel goals. I'd like to travel to South America and Spain. I'd like to explore the world more. To find that there are so many different cultures and lessons from those cultures that we can learn and apply to our lives to learn and to live by. In business, I'd like to meet my business heroes, even though they say that it's not a good idea to. Tim Ferriss being one of them. I find that he is very inspiring. I like his experimental mentality and how he really goes out there and sets goals and dedicates himself to achieve them. Next section will be family. So mission to get my family back together, as a lot of my family live overseas, and I'm a really sort of family-focused person where I really miss my family back in New Zealand, and I'd love to have them all together. So there is a sort of mission there that I'd like to achieve one day, and hopefully we'll be living together within driving distance. That'd be great. And then contribution. So I'd like to really establish. I've got this thing where that has been in my mind for a very long time, and that is based around my history and where I've come from. I've done a little bit of prison ministry in the past, and I'd really like to establish a prison ministry education system. So that would involve teaching these kids in prison entrepreneurship, as it's very, very hard for a kid or a juvenile justice, so a kid under the age of 18, to come out from prison and find themselves jobs or careers because of their lack of CV. So I'd like to be able to teach these kids how to find their passion and turn that passion into a business of sorts. So teaching them sort of those relevant skills. And I'd also like to embed into that a spiritual aspect too. So doing bits of Bible study and teaching them that side of things. So yeah, that's my bucket list. Influences growing up would be Richard Branson to start off with. He was a very inspiring part of my younger life, reading his books and learning about how he sort of got into business ownership and the entrepreneur side of things. Today, he's got probably 50 plus businesses, each just with his name and branding. So it's very cool to learn off him those sides of things. But yeah, he's a very cool person. I love what he sort of stands for. Next question is from Henny Hadfield. What were the 3 worst things you did or happened in your life which were key turning points? Nothing bad ever happens in somebody's life. Well, sorry, that's a lie. Nothing as bad has happened in my life because I've decided to turn them into lessons, and everything that's happened in the past has made me who I am today, so I don't classify that as a bad thing. There have been some hurdles which I've overcome. For example, I left home early, which I was 15, 16 years old, left school, left home, and I ended up working in a pizza shop as a delivery driver. And that there was a very interesting part of my life, as I ended up living life young. But the positive side to that is it enabled me to mature faster and to develop my street smarts. And so by the time I was 18, I was trying to get my life back on track again, whereas for most people, that doesn't happen until later on in life. I ended up getting arrested. Had a situation there which was very messy. I did a home invasion assault because this guy threatened to kill my sister. But I ended up getting arrested and going to court and got given community service. But that enabled me to get back into church because I requested to do my community service through the church, and that there turned my life around. I ended up going to a Christian camp and dedicated my life back to God, and that part of my life there really kick-started my life, or got me back into a better life where got away from the environment I was in, moved to Australia once my community service was finished, and here I am today. It's been about 9 years now, and my life since then has been handed to me on a silver platter, which is leading me into my next question from Simone Burford, my mum. How has your faith impacted your work decisions or life decisions? So my faith in God has enabled me to live a life with morals, and I say that since rededicated my life obviously back to God. I didn't have too many morals or any frontal lobes, as my mum would like to explain, or to say when I was going through that rough part of my life. But the Bible teaches a lot of morals to live by, and so I see it as a rule book for life. If you follow these rules, then you have a clean, honest life, and that's a very attractive aspect to Christianity. It's enabled me to consider myself blessed and appreciate more of life and what God has given me, and the journey that He's led me down. I mean, I look at every single day of my life and think, man, I am so blessed to be where I am, to these opportunities that I have, and the possibilities and the opportunities I have in my life. It's absolutely amazing, and I find that a lot of that has been led by God because I've decided to follow Him. It's also given me honesty, which is great in friendships and in business. You earn trust with others, and you have an honest life because you have morals to live by. And it'll also give me hope for the future, and something to live for. I believe that there's a lot more to life after death, and so that's given me a lot of hope and purpose, and something to dedicate myself to. Next question is from Alicia Coffin, my little sister. What keeps you going when you're exhausted and on the verge of giving up? That's part 1 of 3. So the first question there, this happens often to me. I often get exhausted. I put in these really big days, and that often results in fatigue, and makes me sometimes think, what the heck am I doing, and do I really want to continue doing this? I find what helps keep me going is vision. Having a vision for where you're going, having a purpose, and knowing that each day is one step closer to reaching my goals, which is the next part. Goals help me to stay dedicated. Goals help me to stay motivated. And if you set yourself big goals, then you have a lot to work towards, but also every day that you accomplish the next step towards those goals helps you feel like you've succeeded in something, and helps you feel that one step closer, and helps you to see the light at the end of the tunnel. As well as mini holidays. Right now, Alicia, my wife, and I, Alicia being my wife, we are on a mini holiday, and we've retreated to a place in the middle of nowhere on 100 acres with a spa and a little house and our dogs, and that helps me to recharge and to refresh, and to focus, to refocus on where I'm going. I find this time there great to be able to read my books and write in my journal and to do a bit of Bible study, and that revitalizes me and gives me a bit more energy. The next part of Alicia's question is, how do you deal with difficult and abusive clients, if you have any? And trust me, I have plenty. I give them what they want so that they can move on, and I also apply the 80-20 rule, whereas 80% of your effects come from 20% of the cause, being I focus on the 20% of my clients that result in 80% of my turnover, as well as 80% of my income comes from 20% of what I focus my mind. Comes from 20% of what I focus my mind onto. So if I focus on my big clients, I keep them happy, and they generate me 80% of my return on my investment, with that time and that financial investment as well. Whereas the clients that I find are difficult, if I treat them well and have that retail smile where I just give them my best, even though they annoy me, then they often become a lot easier to deal with. From that, you also get referrals, and hopefully that generates into bigger clients and a better reputation. But when you're in business and when you're when you're in retail or in your career, it's always going to be one of those things that you're going to come across, and those things there you just have to address with a friendly smile and do the best you can do. And then if you also change your mentality, instead of thinking them as difficult clients, think of them as possibilities and opportunities, then you get the best outcome. Part 3 of Alicia's question is, what are you looking for in your future? For me personally, I aim for financial freedom so I can focus on doing what I want when I want, giving back and focusing on my family, traveling the world, experiencing all that life has to offer. And I'd also eventually like to write a book or two on everything I've learned in my life, as it's been an amazing journey. So that is part of my vision and my goal setting. So financial freedom will enable me to do more with my time and to inspire others, because that is my biggest goal, is to inspire others and to share everything that I have learned. Next, we have a question from Joni Miller. Now, Joni is who I would also nickname Superwoman. She is amazing. Her question is, how remote assistance helped you build your company, and what do you foresee yourself doing more in-house versus external contractors, and why one over the other? Now, Joni, Joni started working with me about 5 years ago. I put a job out on the internet asking for a typist to help me type up my reports when I was working on the Gold Coast Light Rail project. And she is based out of New York, Plattsburgh in New York, so upstate. And she has worked her butt off with me side by side for the past 5 years. That has enabled me to really leverage my time, which has been absolutely fantastic, and grow to where I am today. She now is managing director of a number of my businesses, and she runs the show. We ended up getting so big that I asked her to hire her own staff, so she decides to put a job out on the internet as well, and ended up hiring 2 staff out of Sydney. So I hired a girl in New York who hired 2 girls out of Sydney, which is where I'm based, which is pretty funny. That has been really, really beneficial in my early stages of business, but I find that now that I'm growing to such a stage where I'm a lot bigger, I need to focus more in-house and to bring on staff that I can build into a culture, because I find culture is a really big part of business. Culture is an aspect of business that helps you to grow and develop a personality that reflects onto your customer service and your sort of mission. It also enables me to refine every minute of my productivity if they're in-house versus if they're freelancing. Reason being is because I have no control as to whether they go out to the shops or out to the movies during the working day. It enables me to be able to stick to my promises with my clients. So if I tell them they're going to have their report back in 48 hours, I know they have enough manpower dedicated to that aspect, to that promise, and giving you better customer service in the long run. So to summarize that, I think that that freelancing and outsourcing your work is really good for your early stages of business. But when you get to a point where you're growing so fast and you've got a lot more clients, then I think that in-house is a lot more productive and enables you to really refine your service. So those are my questions for today. I thank for the opportunity of being able to try out this video blog, and it's been interesting, and it hasn't been easy. But if you guys like it, hit me up some more questions, and I'll see what I can do. Thanks very much. Talk to you soon.